Okay. Hello, tubers. Welcome to Snafu Radio. If you like the content that we're putting out on this channel, be sure and share it with everybody you know. Be sure and hit the like button, smash the like button on this thing to push the ratings up so this gets out to other people. I really want to say thanks to all the listeners that are uh, joining in on these podcasts. I'll even give a special shout out to Southern Pride in Oklahoma City. Good job, my man, for sharing these videos like you're doing. If everybody was to do like Southern Pride and just smash the like, subscribe, and push this content out as far as you can, then this stuff would go absolutely viral. So I want to say hi to Scrappy Junk, Barry White, Savannah Evan, Tyler G. Great job. Dave, I'm sorry, I'll probably butcher your name, Kormarnicki. Uh, sorry, I'm from Texas. We speak in phonetic. I actually spell phonetically, so that's just the way it is. Alex Daly, welcome to the show. Glad y'all are up here and getting this. David Snodgrass, how y'all doing? Okay, this is going to be a really powerful interview. There's going to be an actual extra that I'm going to play. When we ended the show, Corey had given a really powerful speech at the end. And when we stopped the show, we talked about it for a little bit. Jay, what's happening, my man? How's it going in South Carolina? So glad y'all all could be here. Now, when we hung up this morning, we were talking about I was talking to him, to Cody. I keep saying Corey. I don't know why. It's like the other day I said James or something. I just had a mental brain fart. I think it was yesterday. I spent 6 hours on the computer doing the interviews, uploading the shows, blah, 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 blah. My brain was pretty well dead. I mean, I went to bed early. So it was, but at the end of this show, Corey had said, Cody, gosh damn, Cody had said something that was pretty outstanding. And I said, man, that was really fucking powerful shit you were talking there. And, what you had said, it was just outstanding. He goes, you know what? He goes, man, I really wanted to say that on the air. Can we do a little extra episode real quick? And I had to really get off the air early today because I had a lot of shit to do. Hi, Luann Shernick. Sorry, like I say, I'm from Texas. If I butcher y'all's names, it's only because I don't know how to say your name. It's not that I'm trying to offend you or anything. It's just, like I say, I spell phonetically. But anyhow, when I go to end this show, I'm going to play the extra that we discussed that Cody wanted to get on and absolutely make sure that he got out to everybody. Howdy, Elizabeth Raynor Short in the UK. All right. I'm glad you're up. I know y'all are 6 hours ahead. It must be, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Damn it, girl or boy. Yeah, whoever you are. You must be a girl. You're Elizabeth. Sorry. So anyway, when I get to the end of this, I'm going to say, okay, here's the extra clip that Cody wanted to tell y'all. And this is some deep shit, y'all. So I would just want you to know this is going to be a pretty powerful little episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into, and BVC Ltd. I actually asked Cody about does he know about the UK attacks. In fact, let me get to a couple of these questions that y'all had asked. So BBC asked about the tube attacks. I addressed that to Cody on this program, and also Lynn's question that she had on there. So I don't even have to tell you what the answer is because you're going to hear it anyway. So let me go ahead and kick this off so you quit hearing me babble. I had a really long day today, so I'm kind of a little bit tired, but I just want, oh, you're in Kentucky, Elizabeth. Oh, okay. Say, you were saying hi to the UK. All right. Well, sorry about that. I just thought you were in the UK. That's okay. Howdy to Kentucky. So anyhow, let's kick this show off. Y'all kick back and listen, because it's some pretty good shit. Hang on. Okay, hello YouTubers. Welcome to another show on Snafu Radio. We have our returning favorite guest, CodySnodgres, and he is going to indulge some more information upon us with his vast knowledge of everything that he has seen and done. Now, naturally, we're going to give our disclaimers. I have no firsthand knowledge. I cannot confirm or deny anything this man is going to tell you. But like I say, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it might be a duck. So let's go ahead and bring our favorite guest on, CodySnodgres. How are you doing this morning, Cody?
Morning, Scott. We got a fire and some coffee here, so we're doing really good. We're alive and nobody's shooting at us, so living that fat, soft civilian life.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let's just go over a few statistics, and I also want to talk about one or two comments. Maybe there was one in particular I thought was really intriguing, and we also have listeners that are wanting to ask a couple of questions that you might know of, and we'll kind of go over this stuff real quick, and then we're going to get to the main topic that I want to ask you about, which is all the money laundering in these banks. But first, let's just talk about some of the statistics. Now, the video I did about 12 days ago about the 2,200 Marines storming the CIA, that video is 178,473 views with 4,552 thumbs up compared to 204 thumbs down. The first video that we did, it got all washed out because we were live streaming, is up to 9,952 views with 511 thumbs up compared to 5 thumbs down. Then the update that we did on that when we started recording all these, as this is all as of this morning, which is December the 2nd, is 2,575 views with 266 thumbs up and 4 thumbs down. The Indigo Skyfall video that we just uploaded yesterday is 1,057 views, 160 thumbs up to 1 thumbs down. And the truth of that about Afghanistan, which I started and got uploaded kind of late last night, is 729 views and with 145 thumbs up to 1 thumbs down. So the total view count on all your videos that are only less than 10 days old is 14,315 views. Now, let's go to the one comment that I thought was really interesting, and this is going to be from IWAJ 2011. And this was on the video, The Truth About CodySnodgres, The Truth About Afghanistan and Benghazi, the one that has 729 views. But anyhow, what IWAJ 2011 said, I can't stop listening to y'all. Haven't listened to anything else in 3 days. Over and over again, making sure I get every detail right. This is riveting information finally delivered in a near perfect summation form instead of getting bits and pieces to sort through. Thank you so much, Snafu and Cody. And he went on to say that he used to live on Cheyenne Mountain near the Broadmoor. But anyhow, when I read that this morning, I had to pin it. So anybody that makes really great comments like that, you're going to get your comment pinned to the top so everybody can read it. Now, there was a couple of questions that I thought were kind of interesting, and they wanted me to ask you about. And one was from a lady named, or I assume it's a lady, but it is Lynn. And what this person wanted to know about was back in 1983, it was October 23rd, about the Beirut bombing in Afghanistan, and wanted to know who is Keystone. And I was wondering if you may have any information about who is Keystone during the Beirut bombing, the roadside bombing in Afghanistan. Do you have any knowledge of anything about that?
Well, I'm confused about the question. Are you talking about? Is she talking about the Beirut bombing in Lebanon, where our Marines, 200 and some odd of our Marines, were killed in that truck bomb? Or is she talking about another bombing over in Afghanistan? Because Beirut is in Lebanon.
Right. Well, the main question that she wanted to know about was who is Keystone. I never heard of Keystone, and so you may or may not know anything about that.
No, I do not know that. That sounds like a code name. It's either for an operation or it's a name of an operative where they want to protect his identity. So it's an individual code name or an op code name. But you got to remember that in Afghanistan, they have a lot of JSOC teams. That's Joint Special Operations Command teams, and those are Pentagon teams. A lot of those JSOC teams are composed of various military branches. You know, they may not be like all Navy SEALs, like the SEAL Team 5 or SEAL Team 6, where they're all Navy SEALs. Some of those JSOC teams, they create the team and they pull individual assets depending upon their qualifications, like medic training, language skills, weapon skills for particular operations. So they might pull in like one Army Ranger and then a Navy SEAL or a Delta Force guy or something, and they put them together in a little team. The problem with those JSOC teams are rapid teams, but they don't have time to train a lot of times together if they're thrust together in a hurried operation. Whereas like the SEAL teams, those guys, they train together. They know each other's thoughts. I mean, they're just wonderful. They operate as a complete group. And so those teams sometimes are code names. They all have code names. So it could be a team. It could be an individual. It could be an op. I've never heard of Keystone myself, but there's jillions and jillions and jillions, believe me, of all kinds of names that they come up with. So I've never heard of it.
Okay. Well, we had another listener from England that asked a question. His handle was BVCLTD, and he wanted me to ask you if you knew anything about the UK attacks in the Tube. The Tube is a subway for all you Americans that don't know what the Tube means. Back in 05 or 06, do you have any knowledge about the attacks on the Tube in England in 05 or 06?
No, I was not directly involved in any of those ops. My closest thing to that was I knew an MI6 agent that was a female, that's all I'll say. And she had lunch and stuff with Princess Di a few times, and had warned her that that she might have some trouble, before Princess Di was killed. But there's some other people I know over in Europe that are really involved in all the research for that kind of thing. But myself, that was not my sphere of operation there, and I had no ops or anything there, so I don't know anything about that one either.
Well, that's fine. These, some of these questions are, they realize that you have a lot of knowledge on various things that have occurred. So they just wanted me to ask you, and I thought I would go ahead and indulge them. It doesn't mean that everybody that, sends a question, I'm going to read it on the air and ask, but I thought, since we had a little bit of time this morning, that we could go ahead and ask that, because this whole episode is going to be focused on one specific topic this time. And the question is going to be, you had mentioned about a lot of money laundering and these banks that are colluding together with the New World Order criminal satanic cabal. So the question is, what do you know about the money laundering and the corruption in all the banks that seem to be funding all these wars in this surreptitious fashion?
Oh boy, that's a big one, and I'm going to talk about things, but I will not talk about some of the other things in open form like this. But I just want to say, the 1982 Intelligence Protection Act, IPA, Title Code 50, Section 421 and 426. I do not intend to violate any laws or federal laws by naming any operatives who may still be working or anything like that. So what we're going to do is just do a basic thing. As you, Scott, and most of your listeners know, America is a big drug nation. A lot of nations, drugs is a worldwide thing. The British used to control the opium trade in China, and it's always been a big thing, drugs and arms, regardless of which nation is in control or which particular regime or government is operating. But there's always been a drug and a arms business, and recently that's gotten quite large. Down in South America, they produce over 80% of the world's cocaine, and most of it goes up here to America. We use a lot of it. The money's up here, and the drugs are down there. And Afghanistan's the same way. We talked about that yesterday. They have the world's largest crop of opium, and so there's where the dope is, and over here's where the money is. And the bottom line for everyone is getting paid. And it doesn't matter who you're working for or what you're doing. In the black ops or shadow government world, the idea is to accomplish whatever mission it is, then get paid, and everyone keeps their mouth shut. And the interesting thing here in America, they got the DEA and all of them on one hand, and they're supposed to be stopping the flow of drugs and stopping all this. But then on the other hand, you have the shadow government, CIA and all of them doing their, bringing the stuff in. So you got one hand of the government bringing it in and another hand of it trying to stop it. And the DEA, by stopping drugs coming in here, they make the street price go up. And so a lot of people don't realize this opium epidemic thing that's been going on here in America. And all of a sudden you're hearing about all this, people dying of overdoses, everything. That's just the CIA using their influence over our American media to create a problem, a false problem, so that doctors and the VA will quit giving opiates out, which will drive our people then into the black market, which the CIA controls through Afghanistan, of all the opiates and heroin coming in here. So this is all like a false flag in the press, basically. And the money has to go somewhere, okay? America's very rich. And the money has to flow from here back to Afghanistan and through Europe and Russia and all of it. It has to go, for the cocaine, it has to go down, to Central America and South America. And so the almighty dollar is the big driver. Oftentimes drugs and arms are exchanged without any money at all, or having to convert currencies, like the yuan into dollars, or dollars into rubles, or rubles into francs, or whatever it is. But the bankers sit on top of all of it. we've talked about corrupt governments. You know, the CIA, the KGB, they all do assassinations. They're all involved in black bag, Israeli Mossad, standard thing over and over and over. But up above all of this, okay, now this is a big picture. So up above all this sits the international bankers. The International Monetary Fund in Bell, Switzerland, the Bank of England, you know, out of London. And the history of all this goes way back. And if you recall, in our country in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. There was oftentimes back in 1839, Andrew Jackson, the president, he signed the Indian Removal Act, which, you know, took the Cherokee people and removed them off their land. That was my ancestors. They all went to Oklahoma, but back then he was fighting a running battle with the bankers over control the issuance of currency, because under our Constitution, our bank is our government is supposed to issue the currency. So they had a running battle over whether the government would issue the currency or whether the banks themselves would print the money and issue it. And so they had running battles, and on his gravestone, and I think he died at the Hermitage in Tennessee, and they buried him. And he put on his tombstone, it says, "I killed the bank." And so what happened then in 1913, they had all that in Jekyll Island, where Paul Warburg and the Schiffs, the Morgans, at behest of the Bank of England, all of those guys got together and they decided to run the big scam and take the government's power to issue money back into their own hands. And so what the deal was, they were going to issue the currency and then loan it at interest to the federal government. So they created the Federal Reserve Board. The name is deceptive. That was 1913. A lot of your listeners probably know all this. I'm going through a little bit of history to get up to what we're doing today. And they created this mass banking thing. And so they started loaning money to the U.S. government. Then World War I came along. They had to borrow a lot of money. And bankers love nothing more than war. Because if you look at what bankers do, let's say you got England and France fighting each other in a war. They loan money to England to fight the war. Then they turn around and loan money to France to fight the same war. Then after they fight each other for years and destroy and burn down cities and blow everything up, then they loan money back to both sides to build everything back up. Right. So war is a perfect way for these bankers to solidify their control of more and more money, more and more power. And then they use that money and power to infect and corrupt any particular government. If they're like here in America, if a politician won't vote the way the bankers want, they just write a check and get another one, say. And our system here has been totally corrupted by the money laundering and the bankers. And so this Federal Reserve System is a slave system. They also, when they passed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, they first introduced the graduated income tax here in the U.S., so it effectively enslaved us. And all you people that are going to work, you know, and working, and they take money out of your check, that's your money. Okay? The system's been set up to enslave you. Okay? And the bankers are at the top of it. They loan money in and out to legitimate arms dealers and to shadow government arms dealers alike. They don't care. They just care about their profit. Okay? The drug business, they loan money to pharmaceutical companies that are above board, like Lilly Pharmaceutical or Roche. And they also loan money to illegal ones like the Pablo Escobar cartel down there with the cocaine in South America, or the Afghani heroin over there. They don't care if it's black or white or what laws they violate in any country. What I'm trying to get everyone to look at here, Scott, if they want to see the truth, is a bigger overview of a worldwide international cabal that controls money and its issuance. And it was Lord Rothschild in England. He had those 5 sons that run the different banks in England, France, Italy, Germany, so forth. But Lord Rothschild, I'm quoting here, I don't have my notes with me, but he said something like, give me control over the issuances of a nation's currency, and I care not who makes the laws. Okay? So if they have control of the money, then they can control the governments, they can control the legal narcotics trade and the illegal narcotics trade. They can control the legal arms like, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all those places that build all these big things for billions of dollars, and they can control the illegal arms stuff. So the money is the bottom line, and so the laundering and movement of money, if you ever want to figure out a conspiracy theory, whatever it is, like that tube bombing your listener wrote in about, or Operation Keystone, or whatever these things are, if you can get the data, you start watching where the money, who funded them, who funded ISIS, where did they get all those Toyota trucks? Where? There are a bunch of towel heads over there. I've been on prayer mats in Damascus, Syria, and with some of those guys, and they gave me a Quran, a Bible. It was their Quran, but it was translated into English. It has all that Farsi gibberish, and then it has the English words. I prayed with them on the prayer mats and all that stuff, but those people over there are not capable. A lot of them in the terrorist groups and stuff, they're not capable of funding themselves. They're just too stupid. They're shooters, and they push a button and blow up a mosque or something, but they can't conduct business enough. So they were all funded somehow. And so when you start looking at this funding that moves around, a lot of it goes through the International Monetary Fund in Bell, Switzerland, Bank of England, the Federal Reserve New York branches, and then this BCCI Bank in the Caymans. And that's the one we talked about earlier, where they were washing all the drug money from CI Operation Centaur Rose. That was a domestic operation. It was an illegal operation. The CI did not have legal finding to operate domestically in our country at that time. Now, after 1999 and no, not 1999, I mean 2001, when they had the September 11th Twin Towers attacks, after the Patriot Act was passed and that thing was uplifted, and now the CI can operate domestically here. As a matter of fact, they moved their domestic terrorism group from Langley for the first time over here to Denver in Colorado underneath Buckley Air Force Base. It's a thing underneath there. So they're operating domestically here now, which is one reason why there's so much propaganda and so much crap over the mainstream media. The bankers control the media too. They control the stocks, the bonds, the stock exchanges. They can crash this economy whenever they decide to. They can row the economy back and forth between depressions, recessions. Like in the Great Depression in 1929, during the roaring 20s, just after World War I, everything was roaring and just land speculating, people making money, everybody was happy, and it was going great. And in 1929, there was a Great Depression, and everybody lost their assets. My grandfather, he was born in 1891, lived in Missouri, and he told me about the Great Depression. He said, son, that was a hell of a time. He was on his farm, and a guy on a horse rode up and told him, Ray, he said, you better go to the bank and get your money. He had $5,000 in the bank. It's a lot of money back then. And go down there and get it. But the sheriff was there. The farmers already busted out the windows, and the bank had closed because they couldn't get their money out. So then the land prices all fell. Nobody had money to pay the taxes, just the taxes on the farmland. And so they all lost them to the government, the bankers. And this is going to happen again here pretty soon. But they can roll the economy up like during the roaring 20s and release the flow of money to where everything's just burning real hot. It's kind of like opening a fire on a damper on a fireplace. If you open it all the way and flood it with money, then it burns real hot. And then the economy, if you want to cool it down, you shut the damper and it goes back down in the form of a depression. And so during depressions, they can loot the assets of the civilians in whatever country they're in. Okay? Now, Scott, this is real important for you and the listeners. I'm going to say something right here, and I want it to sink in. These international bankers are pure stone cold evil. They are the pinnacle and the top of satanic evil on our planet. They don't care about people. They don't care about countries. They care about their profit. And a banker does not care about a conflict or a war. The only thing the bankers care about is the debt that the conflict or the war produces. I'll say that one more time. Bankers don't care about the debt. About the war. They don't care about communism, socialism, freedom, rich, poor, black, white. They don't care about any of that. They don't give a shit. So they don't care about the conflict, just the debt that the conflict produces. The longer the war, the more the debt. So how long have we been in Afghanistan, Scott?
Shit, what, 18 years?
Okay, how long were we in Vietnam?
Wasn't that about 12 years?
Yeah, it was over a decade. Now, what you'll see, your listeners can see this. Look at all those wars that happened, in the back. There was a Civil War, and then there was the, World War One. They last 4 or 5 years. Then World War II lasted 4 or 5 years. Then the Korean conflict came, and then they had all these little things like, Vietnam showed up. As you notice, just in this one century, the wars have been becoming longer and longer, haven't they?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
They make profit off bullets and bandages by funding both sides.
Right. And the longer the war, the more weapons they sell to both sides, the more casualties there are, so there's more medical costs, and then they loan money to the hospitals and so forth. Okay, so what you're seeing here, okay, it's plain to see if you're looking across this century. The wars in America have been getting longer and longer. You know why? Because the bankers took control of our currency in 1913. And it took them decades to infiltrate and control our whole economy. Okay, so the first thing we have to do as Americans is get rid of the Federal Reserve Board. Get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's not even federal at all. They're all private bankers. None of them work for the government. It's not a government agency. If you look on your phone book, wherever you people listening, wherever you are, don't believe what's coming out of the hole under Cody's nose. You look for yourself. Look this up. Get a phone book right now where you are and look up in the section where it says Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve. You'll see that it's not in the government. These are privately owned banks. And these private people are greedy. They don't give a shit about America. They're here so they can loot this country. You take a pie, Scott, and you put it on a table out at a picnic, and a bunch of flies get on it. And if you put a bigger pie out there, more flies will come. And America was the biggest pie. We were the richest country. And so this is where all the bankers have accumulated. Just like flies. They're parasites. They're looters. They're suckers. They set this whole system up to enslave us and make us work for them. Then they create the wars, fund both sides, and our guys go get killed believing all this propaganda they feed us about patriotism and freedom and all this horse shit. When you strip down the wars like Afghanistan and Vietnam, you'll find are corporate wars for the corporations. Remember we discussed yesterday the oil, $12 trillion of proven reserves in the Caspian Sea?
Yes.
All the molybdenum and tin and the rare earth elements that have been discovered in the mountains of Afghanistan. Now the poppy. Okay, I have friends from Vietnam. One of my friends he got stitched with an AK, three bullets out of a machine gun burst on his second tour, and the poor guy's he got back, he's in bad shape, but he told me, he said his first tour, he's over there for God and country and everything, but the things he started seeing, he realized it was just a corporate war. An example, one of the guys that was on our op teams later, I'll call him Dan. Dan was a platoon leader in the infantry, and they got in a firefight with Viet Cong. And so it was a running firefight. The Americans had them outgunned and outnumbered, but they were trying to, VC would hit them and then run off in the jungle. So the Americans were chasing them. And the VC knew that if they went to a Michelin rubber plantation, you know, there's a whole bunch of big rubber plantations in Vietnam. The French started them after World War II. But they would all go in there and hide because the VC knew that Michelin rubber plantation had got the U.S. military to take them off the hit list. So my buddy Dan, they were taking casualties. Then the VC would run down in the middle of this big field and start firing mortars back up at them because the Americans had the high ground. So they call in an airstrike or a forward-based artillery unit to pound these guys. And they'd all come back, no, that's not a free fire zone. And so Dan told me, he said, you know, here are guys taking casualties, but we can't shoot at these VC because they're on a corporately banker-protected big rubber farm. And so that's the kind of thing that you get into. These things become political. They're influenced and controlled by the bankers. They're after the raw resources like rubber plantations, water, timber, oil and gas like in the Caspian Sea. They want to control the world's resources. They want to control the world's food. And so they use money and money laundering and stuff to do that. Now, the BCCI Bank down in the Caymans that was operational back in the 80s, that was started by a guy from India. And it was known as a notorious international drug hub. Not only did the CIA wash a lot of their dope money through there, the Panamanians, Noriega washed some of his, the guys in Colombia, some guys in the islands there. I don't know if Fidel Castro washed some of his money through there at any time. But that was just a big thing. And then they go back and forth to Europe. They bounce the accounts through Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The Saudis had a lot of money in there. And so when you get into the international drug trade, the international arms trade, and wars, you trace the money, and then you can find it goes all the way back to the bankers. Now, the bankers control all the media, so in the history books, they control the publisher. They own McGraw-Hill. They own the stocks that control the publishing outlets. And so tracing all this back straight to them is tough because they're controlling things to keep us all dumbed down. And these banks are a shambles now. Our economy is going to collapse soon. There's no stopping it. They've been inflating the currency, printing. This is a mess. And when our economy collapses and all the goods stop flowing, Scott, they're worried about a civil war. When people get hungry, that's when the fight starts.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just was agreeing with you. And, you know, just for all the listeners out there, none of these videos are edited. They're not scripted. What comes across this phone call is exactly what you hear. I just want y'all to know there is nothing scripted in this. There is nothing edited. So that's just food for thought. So when you hear this comes straight from two guys. They're just speaking to y'all like if you were in the same room. Y'all are around our little fire, and this is a fireside chat. So I just want y'all to know this is some good. This is a straight up talk. Go ahead, Cody.
Right. Okay, well, you just said that, but I got this book of mine that we wrote, Choosing the Light, Dark Secrets of the Oklahoma City Bombing, and I'm in chapter 7 on page 10 of it. I open it up, and I want to read this to the people. It's just a short thing about the mindset of the international bankers, okay? And remember that thing. Bankers do not care about the particular conflict. All they care about is the debt that the conflict produces. So it says, before we go into the first main reason for Oklahoma City bombing or any other false flag staged event, imagine for a moment that you are a powerful, rich international banker with loyalty to no country, only to global money, greed, and power. Here's how these elite bankers might think with their international global control mindset. Any government, no matter which country, will do what pays us. The bankers. These governments will be our pawns, secretly controlled by our shadow governments that the people never see. They will make war when it suits us and keep the peace when it doesn't. All kinds of governments worldwide will learn that trade requires certain measures beneficial to all bankers called trade laws. When we have decided on these measures, whenever us bankers want something to keep our dividends and profits up, governments soon discover that our wants are suddenly a national priority. Whenever the citizens, regardless of which country, want things to keep our banking profits down, then we'll get our shadow government to make their leaders call out the police and or the military. In return, these governments shall have all the loans and monetary support, lavish applause and praise from all our banker-controlled corporate news, TV, and media outlets. Us bankers can grant our puppet politicians in any nation we choose the false delight of believing that they are great statesmen who only want to, quote, help the people. Any politician who defies us will be squashed like a bug. And so I want y'all to think about Kennedy's head, John Kennedy in Dallas, his head going forward and back on that Zapruder film. Any politician who defies us will be squashed like a bug. And so, you know, Scott probably a lot more than me, but in the Kennedy thing, I was there in Dallas. I was a kid, but when that happened. But you know, Kennedy was trying to bring back the old Lincoln greenbacks, the $5 bills, and he was going to try to have our government issue the money instead of having the Federal Reserve issue the money, and then we borrow it from it at interest. And see, that's the whole scam. And Kennedy was against all those bankers. And he had also had some things with the, you know, the Bay of Pigs and Allen Dulles and all that. It's a whole other can of worms. But the point I'm trying to make is any politician who defies us will be squashed like a bug. And history records that the money changers, the international bankers, have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over government by controlling money and its issuance. So the international laundering, the BCCI bank down there, that was a bunch of basically coke money because it was close to Colombia and South America, Central America, and you know, New York and Miami down there on the east coast of the United States. And so it was basically a drug hub laundering of all the dope money and some arms money on this side of the world. Anyone can study all this international banking stuff. There's several good books out. One of them's called The Unseen Hand, where the guy goes through decades and decades of history worldwide and shows how the unseen hand of the money launderers and the bankers affect shadow government operations in each country, and then the fear that's revealed from the false flag ops that those things infect the people and they all get scared and then they accept some new law or some new tax. And they'll say, oh, we need to raise taxes to pay for anti-terrorism and we need this and we need that. And they gradually loot the civilians in whatever population they're in. And the bankers are much, much worse than, you know, the CIA or whatever. They control the CIA. They control the KGB. And, you know, whoever's got the biggest money can get whatever they need done. So that's basically, you know, in a nutshell. There's a whole lot of specific stuff, you know, about different banks. One of the agents, I can say his name is a CIA agent named Ronald Rivwald, was over in Singapore, Hong Kong area over there. His front was being a banker, and he was a big polo guy. He liked playing polo, and he played polo with the Saudi royal family and stuff. But he saw a bunch of money being laundered through those banks way back in the day, it came out of all the triad opium and stuff that was going on in Air America and all the stuff later with the triad heroin connections in Southeast Asia going over to LA and our West Coast, and then all that dope filtering through our country, and they had to wash the money over there. And he got sick of what he was seeing and went to blow the whistle. So they concocted some horse shit, and then they arrested him. And he had some friends help get him out. But in the meanwhile, he had sent some of his files and some of his stuff over here to the U.S. to our civilian press. And he wanted to break the story of CIA washing drug money through the bank. And most of them wouldn't touch it because, you know, our mainstream media is controlled heavily by the CIA and the bankers. And so one news, this stuff's all in the book, I think. One of our news conglomerates story, and CIA secretly contacted them and said, "Look, we don't want this blowback to come out to the civilians." And so they said, "I don't know, you know, we're truth seekers, and we want to get this story out about this corruption in the banking and dope world and shadow government world. They want to get the story out." And so they didn't have enough editorial control, the CIA didn't, to shut and kill the stories. So the CIA just went in through front companies and bought controlling stock in the news company. And then once they had controlling stock, they fired all the guys on the board and fired everybody and fired the editors. So Rewald's story never got out to the civilians here in the country. So Rewald then, later on, he got through all these death threats and legal horse shit and all the roadblocks that they throw in front of you when you're a whistleblower like me and Edward Snowden and all the rest of them, and everyone tries to tell the truth, you know, then you get hammered. I mean, you get the shit beat out of you by this shadow government. Your bank accounts freeze up, your credit cards won't work, your phone gets hacked, you know, your computer, all the stuff they throw out. Well, Rewald then wrote a book, and I've got a copy of that book down here. I think it's out of print now, but if any of y'all can find it on Amazon, Scott, any of your readers or listeners, if that book's still in print, he details the whole story of the heroin laundering through the banks. And that big bank in Hong Kong went straight over to the Saudis in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and they were mixing oil money and dope money, and they were taking drug accounts that were coming in cash, and they were doing the magic accounting, you know, and flipping it into oil revenues and then sending it overseas and bouncing it through accounts in the Caymans and the BCCI bank and then back over to his bank, and they'd show back up as investor funds from oil drilling contractors in Saudi Arabia, see? So all of this was just a big way internationally to cover the dope, the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars coming in illegal dope money. So the bankers are at the root of all this. They assist and help everyone wash this money. They assist. They create wars. They fight wars to get drugs and to get oil and to get all these things. And if you really want to get to the heart of the shadow government, okay, you start with the international bankers. They are satanic. They are evil. They want control of our whole world. They are behind this new world order scheme. And George Bush Sr., President Bush, ex-director Central Intelligence, he was one of their puppets. His front was being President of the United States or Director of Central Intelligence. But he was always over there with the Saudis and the big oil money and all that. They controlled him. And the Bush crime family and the Clinton crime family that have been wrecking our country and murdering our people extrajudiciously and using our covert ops like the CIA and the DIA and all these JSOC teams to run around. Those are some of the teams that stole that gold from Gaddafi over there when they hit Libya. Where's all that gold? Did anyone ever ask, Scott, you know, when we went into Iraq and kicked Saddam Hussein out, do you know that Saddam Hussein had a national palace there in Baghdad? And that palace had millions and millions and millions of dinars Okay, in our currency, it's dollars. Okay, so English currency is dollars. And millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of old religious artifacts and museum pieces and Egyptian things and Muslim things. And when we went over there, all we heard on our civilian news was, we're going to go kick Saddam out, blah, blah, blah. And all the pictures of the explosions and the aircraft. But underneath all that, they were looting out tens of millions of dollars of museum artifacts and stuff. That's why they didn't hit that presidential palace at first. They had to loot that thing. They had to loot Saddam's money and his hidden gold and his hidden treasures that he had been getting. Right. Then they turned it into the green zone. Some of your listeners may have seen that. What's that video with Matt Damon? It's called Green Zone.
There's another movie that was also made. It was called, I think it was The Three Kings or some shit like that. And it actually showed where these guys that were working for the military went and robbed a bunch of gold, and they were, supposedly going to give it back to the people and blah, blah, blah. The classic good guy American story, which is a bunch of horse shit. And, so these idiots, made a movie about exactly that. It's like Hollywood tells you some of the real shit that's going on, but, naturally they got to paint it as, oh, we're the good guys and we're doing this for, the good of the people. And to buttress up what you were saying about the bankers, there's a great video on YouTube. It's called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. And it was done by Mike Rivero. It's an excellent compilation of what's been going on with the bankers. So this just further buttresses everything that Cody's saying about all this horse shit that's going on. Hey, I got to go to the restroom real quick. I'm about to poop my pants, so you just carry on. I'll be back in a couple of minutes, but everything you're saying is right. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to read a couple of quotes from some congressmen that were on banking committees and stuff for all the listeners out there. One of this came from David Scott, the Democrat. He was speaking in Congress talking about the debt and TARP bailouts and all the crap that happened after 2008 with that big recession. And here's what the representative said on the floor of the United States Congress. Quote, "We have been lied to. The American people have been lied to. We have been bamboozled. They, the bankers, came to us to ask us for money for one thing, then used it for another. They said we would have oversight, and we have no oversight is in place. We have given these banks $290 billion for the sole purpose of so-called buying these toxic assets. They change it, and all of a sudden now they are lending it, but using it for acquisitions, using it for salaries. These are lies. We have been bamboozled." And so, in the 2008 collapse here in our country, they had the TARP bailout, of course. That's Troubled Asset Relief Program, where they gave our banks, and AIG, American Insurance Group, Goldman Sachs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they gave them $800 billion. They said these banks are too big to fail. Well, all that was the American government looting the American people through taxes and then handing them money over to these corrupt bankers. Because the corrupt bankers had been running so many Ponzi schemes and derivatives, markets, and bad investments, toxic assets, that they have ruined our economy. And so the thing was sold to the public that we have to bail out these bankers. And a lot of people said, well, let the bankers fail. Because when this thing broke off at 2008 with the Great Recession, 9 million jobs were lost here in the U.S. 3.5 million homes were foreclosed on with a net loss of about $7 trillion. the poverty rate, went up from 12.5 in 2007 to 15.1. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost more than 5,500 points from 2008 to 2009. Many people have their money in a 401k retirement plan. They lost $2.8 trillion between September of 2007 to December of 2008. There were 2.3 million home foreclosures just for the year of 2008 alone. And there was an 81% increase from 2007 and a 225% increase in foreclosures from 2006. Okay, so what did all this do? It fucked the American people. I know a lot of guys that lost their homes, they lost their family, they lost their jobs. And how did the bankers come out while all us Americans were suffering? Okay, how did they come out? Well, here's the result. The top banks, the big banks here in America, they grew 23% larger than they were before the 2008 crisis. The banks then held about $8.5 trillion in assets, and which is basically roughly 56% of the U.S. annual output. And then the banks after 2008, they now control 52% of all industry assets, and that was up from 4 decades ago. So what you can see here is that when the bankers control and roll the economy, and they control the government or through their shadow government, like our 2008 so-called Great Recession, the American people lose their stuff. We lose our land, we lose our homes, we lose our jobs. Okay? But what the bankers get, they grow. They get rich. Goldman Sachs and AIG, American Insurance Group, are giving their CEOs million and a half dollar bonuses. They're all in their penthouses with swimming pools and choppers and Learjets on the pad and a house in Barbados, while our people are out on the streets. I know Vietnam veterans that had loans during 2008, and they couldn't make their VA payments, and they lost their houses. And so this is like class warfare. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. And to sum it all up, at the end of 2007, most of the combined consolidated assets of the 5 largest bank holding companies, okay, here in the U.S., they went from $6.9 million roughly up to $8.4 million. Billion, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The combined consolidated assets of the 5 largest bank holding companies in 2008, it was $6.9 billion, and then in 2010, it was $8.4 billion. So while we were all suffering, the combined assets of the banks went up a little over $2 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is how the international bankers roll economies and countries. What we're fixing to see in America. My own prediction is that this is really going to get bad this time, and then it's going to be used to hurt and punish the American people and make them so downtrodden and so hurt, losing their jobs like the soup lines with the Great Depression, that we will capitulate and we'll suffer. They'll let us suffer for a while, and it'll be horrible. And then they'll come in on a white horse, and they'll say, yeah, we need to change the system, and we need to help you people, and if y'all will just give up the Constitution of the United States and you'll give up your firearms, you can join in with a UN thing or the New World Order thing, and then we'll bail you out and help you. So I believe these New World Order bankers are about to pull more false flag attacks. I believe there's going to be a 9/11 type similar event or an Oklahoma City bombing event. I believe it's imminent. I think Donald Trump and them are trying to stop it, which, Scott, is why the 2,200 Marines were there on the CIA headquarters. They're there to try to stop an internal coup or an internal group of people who are working against the United States people for the bankers, because the bankers are behind all this. We want a new world order. And America is the strongest country in the world. They have to knock us to our knees to bring us in line with all the other countries, so we will accept the new world order. So we will give up our guns. So we will let our children take a goddamned microchip.
Right. That's a whole topic I really want to get into on one of our shows, is about all these microchips and convincing the people how they should all accept it. They're already doing it in Sweden, where they're already accepting the microchip. It's just more brainwashing of the people to, accept this electronic form. There's a lot of chatter about how the AI is wanting to, these elites are wanting to interface with computers, basically almost be like a fucking cyborg. So this bullshit is real. And I just want everybody to know, you may not believe this shit, but they do. So that's what's really spooky, because no man or woman doesn't think like this, but this is how they think. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the average person, like us, I'm just an average guy. I'm nobody special. I worked at Amoco as a geophysicist. I did all this black op crap on the side, and I got to put gas in the truck and food in my belly and pay the electric bill like everything else. But these rich international guys, they don't look at this way. We are all their puppets and their slaves and their little pawns to be used at their whim. It's all right, go kill 2,000 in a war or Black Op. We're going to blow up the Twin Towers. That's 3,000, but look what we get out of it. See, look at all the mileage we can get out of an event like that, see? And so the Nazis, this is very important, because the Nazis were right in there with them. The IG Farben chemical company in World War II, that was never hit, by the way, by all the incendiary raids of the RAF Air Force and the U.S. Air Force when they carpet bombed Dresden. I mean, they just burned that whole city to the ground. But the IG Farben chemical plant that made the Zyklon B pellets they used in the gas chambers at Auschwitz, that was never hit mysteriously. It's just a real funny deal. Kind of like, Scott, those Michelin rubber plants that were never bombed or never shelled over in Vietnam. It's just kind of funny. So what I want to say here, this is a quote from Dr. Joseph M. Goebbels, and he was a Nazi SS commander. And he's talking about propaganda to the people and controlling them like these bankers are masters at. And he said, the lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus, by extension, the truth becomes the greatest enemy of the state. Now you fast forward from World War II to where we are right now. Look at this. Look at the censorship on YouTube. Look at Google and Facebook blocking all the links. Look what they did to us, Scott, on that first video.
Right.
How it all faded. And look what they did to Eric Snowden. Look at what they did to Thomas Drake, the NSA whistleblower, or William Binney, the NSA whistleblower. John Kiriakou, if I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry, John, but he was a CIA officer. They threw him in prison for 30 months. We talked about that. Look what they did to me. They planted me with false evidence. Then they used that false evidence, committed perjury of the grand jury. They just lie their fucking asses off. They're liars. This goes on and on and on. So the truth becomes the greatest enemy of the state. And so all of us, you, all the guys out there, we all have to use the internet while it's still up. And before they cook up some kind of thing to censor it even worse than what they're doing, we've got to get the truth out, and we've got to stop them. This is a war for our freedom. It's a spiritual war between light and dark. It's the war between truth and lies. And it's the same thing my dad and my uncle fought against Adolf Hitler. My uncle was in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. They fought the evil of Adolf Hitler. They stood up, they picked up guns, and they went against one of the most awesome military machines in the history of the world. The Blitzkrieg, the Panzer divisions, Adolf Hitler's Luftwaffe. They rolled over Europe and almost took all of England over. I mean, it was a massive thing. And these men stood up and fought against that evil. And now here it's resurfaced. It's resurfaced back here in our times. And we have to be vigilant for freedom. We have to be willing to do what I'm doing and to stand up and to face them. And they say, Cody, are you afraid? Yes, I'm afraid. Okay, my palms are sweating right now doing this interview. I'm sitting here. My stomach feels funny. I don't feel, I'm a little scared talking like this, but we have to overcome that fear and replace it with light and our love of freedom. And that's what I tell people is the only thing stronger than my fear is my love of freedom. So we have to be like our old patriots, like Washington and Jefferson and those guys. You can talk to your blue in the face about Bill and Hillary Clinton. When are they going to arrest them and punish them for their crimes?
Right.
You can talk to Tojo, the emperor in Japan in World War II, till you're blue in the face. They went and bombed Pearl Harbor anyway. They had to use those nuclear weapons to end that war. Was it horrible? Sure. Was it ugly? Oh, yeah. Did a lot of women and children get killed? Yes. But it also ended the very worst war in mankind's history. The question is, what for? So the bankers can start it all up again in Afghanistan and Iraq and Vietnam and all this crap. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, and just to buttress a couple of things up about how Bush was tied to Hitler. I just pulled this up. I Googled it because I knew that Bush's grandpa, his name was Prescott Bush. He was actually a senator, and y'all can Google this. It's how Bush's grandfather helped Hitler's rise to power. It was written in 2004 by The Guardian. And let me just read you just a couple small paragraphs here. George Bush's grandfather, the late U.S. Senator Prescott Bush, was a director and shareholder of companies that profited from their involvement with the financial backers of Nazi Germany. The Guardian has also obtained confirmation from newly discovered files in the U.S. National Archives that a firm of which Prescott Bush was a director was involved with the financial architects of Nazism. They were solely in there because Hitler was part of the eugenics plan. And speculation was, back a long time ago, America was actually involved in eugenics, but they kept it really hidden, quiet. But Hitler, he was all about eugenics, but he went off the rails. And that was kind of another reason he had to get shut down, because he went crazy when he started killing all the Jews and stuff. But let me digress. His business dealings, which continued until the company's assets were seized in 1940 under the Trading with the Enemies Act, has led more than 60 years later to a civil action for damages being brought in Germany against the Bush family by two former slave laborers at Auschwitz and to a Hume of pre-election controversy. That just goes to show you that this all is true. It's just you have to do a little research to find it.
Yeah, and Scott, I know we're getting close to the end on this one here, but I just wanted to tell you and the people out there, there's a book by Viktor Frankl, and he was an Auschwitz survivor. And this is a spiritual thing about the fight that the people were fighting the Nazis, because it's very prevalent to what we're doing, fighting the shadow government here. But Viktor Frankl, him and his wife and kids got arrested by the Gestapo, and they separated him at a train station. And he never saw his wife and kids again, but he didn't know that. He got put in Auschwitz, and he worked in the camps. And one of his jobs, every night in the barracks, people were dying. The Nazis were trying to work them to where they were just almost dead, and then they killed, gassed them, and burned them. And so they were getting slave labor out of them. And after the bodies died, they got all the gold fillings and they shaved their heads and all that stuff. So, meanwhile, the SS was looting as much of the Jewish wealth as they could covertly. However, Viktor Frankl's job was to get up in the barracks every morning, and the people who had died in sleep that night, they drug them out to body piles. And they had these big dugout body piles. And so they were all starving. They were starving to death just before they gassed them. And so Viktor Frankl, to stay alive, he got some little wire off one of the fences, and him and a couple of inmates, they built snares. And they were trapping the rats that were coming in there and feeding on the body piles, because the Nazis were running those ovens so fast, they didn't have time to burn all the bodies, so they just piled them up. And the rats got in there. So Viktor Frankl and them would go out the next day, and they'd get the rats out of the snares. Well, they couldn't eat them in front of the inmates because it would start a riot. You got to remember, people were starving to death and desperate. And if they made one move, the Nazis just shot them right there in the spot. And so they would take those rats and hide them in their prison uniforms and take them back into the bunk and wait till everyone's asleep. And they'd get them out at night, and they ate cold rat meat. And that's how he survived Auschwitz. It was just enough protein to keep him going. And then he stayed alive, and I think it was Patton's Fourth Army, and some of those guys came in there, and they liberated Auschwitz, and our allies first discovered what actually was happening there, because nobody knew on our side, and it was horrible and atrocious. But he survived, and later on, he wrote a book after this horrendous experience, and they said, the interview asked him, why did you go to those extremes? I mean, you ate cold rat meat out of dead body piles. Why would you do that? And he said, because I love my wife and my children. And I kept hope alive in my heart and in my spirit. I always had hope that I would see my family again. He said, it's the only reason I did all that. And he said, I want to tell everyone, you know, that is the last of the human freedoms. It's the choice you make inside your own heart when everything's been stripped away. You've lost your family, you've lost everything, and you're about to die from starvation. It's the last of the human freedoms where you choose in your mind, the choice in your mind not to give up hope. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm stepping forward. I'm trying to get some secret truths out so that hope and light will not die in the American people's hearts. This is our country. It's going down the tubes pretty fast. You can see the signs of it. We're going to have to change it, and we're going to have to fight. Donald Trump's doing the best he can, but he's only one man. All of us together, the people, we, the people, have to stand up. I hope we don't have to pick up guns. I have picked up guns. I have seen people machine gunned and blown up at point blank range. I have PTSD and bad dreams at night. I used to be a drunk. It's ugly. I hope it never gets there again. That's why I'm doing this now, so we can hopefully change it before it gets to that point, before it gets to Viktor Frankl being thrown in the prison by Gestapo SS. Because it's going to happen here. It's going to happen to you, American people. If FEMA and Homeland Security show up at your door with machine guns, what are you going to do? It's easy to sit here and talk, like me and Scott. I'm sitting here by a fire with a nice cup of coffee and all this stuff, but when the killing starts and the guns start going, it's a whole different world. And so, go ahead.
Well, I just want to kind of clarify things. As best as I know, a lot of people want to bash the Jews. Oh, it's the Jewish bankers. It's the Jewish movie moguls. It's the Jewish this, the Jewish that. It's, from what I understand, and you might can clarify this for me, it's not the Jewish people, it's the Zionists that are the Jews. All Zionists are Jews, but not all Jews are Zionists. That's what I'm kind of leaning to. Can you clarify that, or does that sound about right to you?
Well, yeah, but there's individual groups. It's like guys in the CIA. There's good guys, bad guys. There's guys in the Christians. There's good guys, there's bad guys. There's guys in the Jews. Good guys. There's all these labels and all this stuff. Okay, and I don't want to get caught up in the confusion of the labeling or which group it is. I'm talking about the bankers. I don't care if they're Jews or Christians or Muslims or what they are. I'm talking about the way the international bankers control the supply and the issuance of money, and how they use that to control shadow governments, which then control the regular elected governments, and then control the people. It's a multi-step process down of how the bankers control things, and it's multi-generational, and it supersedes all countries and all races and all religions. And it is a system of gradualism. It's called gradualism, where they use their money and their power to change the laws and to tweak different countries and tweak everything in them to slowly, gradually gain more and more control. And so it's hard for people to understand that. They say, oh, conspiracy theory and all this, but this is a big worldwide money laundering, money control, money issuance scheme, which is designed to take over everything. The drugs, the religions, the arms, the water, the GMO foods, everything. They loan money to Monsanto. Monsanto wouldn't be nothing if it wasn't for the bankers. Look, you think Monsanto's bad and all the geoengineering spraying. Look behind who's funding that.
Right.
Okay, and a lot of times you'll find when you start looking, if you're still alive and you don't end up dead or slipping on a banana peel, if you start digging around, you'll find those accounts are all switched and obfuscated and hidden and transferred and bounced back and forth electronically between computers, and it's such a jumbled up maze that you end up with situations like that defense secretary, who said that they lost, there was trillions of dollars unaccounted for in the Pentagon.
Rumsfeld.
Yeah, Donald Rumsfeld.
And that was the day before 9/11. And all of a sudden, that story got quashed, and nobody ever talked about it again.
Yeah, that's the drill, buddy. So what we'll do is just try to get a few things out. I don't know everything. I know a few little things. I try to stick mostly to what I've seen, myself, or heard directly from eyewitnesses. But if the readers out there want to do it, because it takes a lot of time to study this stuff, and most people, we've all got jobs and things that we got to do and take care of the kids and so forth, put tires on the truck, whatever it is. But there is a bigger unseen hand. When you see a false flag attack City or 9/11, and then they give you whatever the stand bullshit is in the media, like Waco, you know, they tell you all the bullshit about it. If you start tracking the money back behind it and where the money came from and who stands to benefit, then you're going to get close to the real unseen hand, to the real people that are pulling the strings behind the scenes on puppets like Bill and Hillary Clinton or Obama. Obama's nothing but a puppet. That guy came out of nowhere. Senator in Chicago, you know, a little bit, and then he jumps up to the White House just like that.
Right.
He was put in there by the bankers. He was funded by the bankers. The media loved him. He was the new darling of the bankers. This doesn't have a damn thing to do with race. I'm not racist at all. Some of my op buddies, men that risked their lives with me, were black men and Asian men. That skin color doesn't matter. That was a distraction for Obama. He was put in there by the bankers, and when the 2008 thing came, who was there to give all the banks the money?
Obama.
President Obama signed the TARP, Troubled Asset Release thing. See, so they put their own guy in there. The economy crashed. Obama bailed them out, and then they came out $2 billion richer at the end while the American people suffered. This is the truth.
Yep.
The bankers are our first enemy. Then the shadow governments that the bankers support is our next enemy. Then the corruption inside of our regular government is the third enemy down on this tier. So I want everyone, the patriots out there, the people who love their children and love our country, to know the truth. This is the tier structure of our enemies. The corruption in our government is horrible. It's at an all-time high. So these are big things to think about, and they're big things to fight. It's hard to get your handle on it. I had to go through a long time of studying and seeing crazy stuff out overseas, and then I would come back to the States and get drunk and then sit there and think, how did this happen? Why is all of this happening like this? And then I try to put it together. And it's very hard, it's very difficult, but I'm trying to simplify a big picture of money laundering and banker control into a short, 1.5 hour thing. So,
no, you did a great job. I think the listeners are really going to appreciate this. They're getting a lot of knowledge. This is like drinking water from a fire hose. So you people just need to get this information out, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up button on this. We're driving the narrative to get this past the mainstream media into the hands of the people so that they can learn the truth about what's really going on behind the scenes, who's controlling it, who's behind it, and eventually we're going to have to, go into false flags and maybe even what can we do to help prevent these false flags. And the only way, as far as I know, at this point in time, is to get this information out as fast as you can, far and wide, to help diffuse their plans. From what I understand, these satanic assholes have to put out what they're wanting to do, even though they do it by codes, symbolism, numbers, numerology, whatever. But if we can break the code, get it out there, it foils their plans, and plus it shines a light that we're expecting this to happen. We're all going to be prepared for it, so we know how to counter it. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, I'm just, there's so many more topics, there's so much more stuff besides this, but this is the heart, the root of the evil in our world, whether it's in America or over in Spain or wherever you're at. These bankers are international. They want a new world order. They want a complete control grid set up with 5G technology, satellites watching. They want to reduce the population. They want to microchip every baby when they're born so they can make slaves out of us. And I would rather die than be a slave, and I mean it. And I will fight. I will pick up arms against them with my last breath. And so that's all I got to say. Everyone else has to make their own decisions. I've already been in combat. I've already seen people killed and cut up and all the nasty things. I hope it never gets to that. That is so horrible. But I think we ought to take some of these bankers and put them in prison. I think, like the Iceland, up in Iceland, the bankers went up there and ruined them too. And the Icelandic people in the government saw how they ruined and looted their country with all those derivative markets and stuff. And they put them in prison. And right now, the worldwide derivatives market through the Deutsche Bank over in Germany, it's at an all-time high, something like $600 to $700 trillion. And the bubbles that were created, like in 2008, that led to that first collapse here in America, nothing was done. The Dodd-Frank Act, the Banking Act, nothing was done to fix this. All Obama did was sign the legislation to loot the American people, give the money to the bankers. The bankers all grew. Now they're doing the same exact thing that created the problems before in the first place in 2008. Now the bubbles are bigger. The housing bubbles are bigger. And when this thing crashes, it's going to be absolutely ugly. And the bankers don't care who dies. They don't care who loses their house. They're going to sit up on top and make money out of the chaos.
I agree. I totally agree. I believe you gave a very compelling reason for everybody to wake the fuck up and start realizing what's going on around you. You all know this to be true. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. We all know it. We all know what happened in 1913. All you people that are listening to this are pretty wide awake. All the trolls that want to come across here, let me just repeat this for you guys again. I want to thank the trolls that come in here and give your little thumbs down because you just anger and make more people irate at what you're doing. Plus, you're driving up the view counts on these videos and just pushing them out even further. So thank you for being the dickheads that you are, the sellouts that you are, because we see right through you. So I know we're going to have to cut this one a little short today. These interviews, as long as they are, they're absolutely priceless. This is gold. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. So be sure, push it out on all your social platforms. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because, like I say, we are driving the narrative. So with that, Cody, I'm going to let you give the last words on this, and then we'll go ahead and sign off. Now, I just want to stop the video or stop the audio for a second because as soon as this little clip is over, like I said, we were talking, and what he is about to say, I felt was very powerful. We talked about it for a little bit, and he wanted to do an encore session. So I'm going to continue this on out, and as soon as I do, as soon as it's over, then I'm going to jump back on for a second, and then I'm going to play the other video and let y'all hear a little bit about what we talked about. So there's been 121 people on this live stream tonight. This is a Saturday night. What is it, December the 2nd. I appreciate everybody that was on here. Please subscribe to Snafu Radio and give this a thumbs up. Now let me go ahead and finish the rest of this, and then I'm going to play the extra content at the end on another clip. So y'all hang on.
Oh, I'm just underneath all this is the spiritual battle between light and dark, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you believe, but the spiritual forces of light are real, and the spiritual forces of darkness are real. And they manifest And each of you look down into your hearts and look there and see what's in there. Do you like what you find in the empty moments there? Okay. Do you like what you see there when you're all alone? Because when the killing starts and the prison arrests and the economy collapses and those kind of bad things that happen, they happen in all over countries, not only Germany, but here. When those things happen, that's when it really pays to do your spiritual work and to know what's inside your own heart. Are you going to let them microchip your children? Are you? Are you going to pick up a gun? Or are you not? What are you going to do? There's a lot of ways to fight them than with bullets. But the first way to fight them is with your spirit and your spiritual light. And so that's what I think was in George Washington and Thomas Jefferson when they went up against the King of England. You know, he's the most powerful king on the planet with the biggest navy, biggest army. And they went to war with him, and they must have been like me right now. I'm scared shitless. So are they. They're going against the most powerful guy in the world. But they had the spiritual light and the belief of freedom to go ahead and stand up and resist him. And that led to our country, the greatest country on earth ever. And so it's to that I speak at the end here about the spiritual things. The light and the truth will set us free, Scott.
You know what? That was probably very powerful. I want everybody to remember only 3% of the American people stood up at the time of the revolution. Only 3%. What are you going to do when the shit hits the fan? Like Cody said, when you're sitting all alone, hide yourself and ask, what are you going to do? That's pretty damn motivating if you ask me. That should stir you to your soul. What are you going to tell your kids? Did you give it everything that you could to stop this satanic cabal from enslaving you, your children, your fellow man? What did you do? That is going to be the question you're going to have to ask yourself. So I want everybody to really think about that and to really pay attention to what's going on around you. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with all your people, tell them to go sign up on Snafu Radio and get the word out. So with all that said, we're going to go ahead and sign off for today. I appreciate everybody that's listening. I appreciate everybody who subscribed. I appreciate everybody who give a thumbs up. I appreciate all the people that really give a damn about this country and about the people of the world. Because we have people all over the world that's listening to these videos. We're all behind everybody in all these other countries. You're our brothers. You're our sisters. You're our fellow man, fellow woman. We're all in this fight together. So with that said, God bless, good night, and Snafu out. Okay, people, and I were talking right after this video, and we felt like this is a little bit more information that you really needed to know, because the heartfelt asking, what are you going to do? Cody said he wanted to add one more thing. So, Cody, what was that you wanted to tell everybody?
Yeah, right, Scott. I'm sorry, but I forgot to say this. You know, when I was asking everyone out there, you know, when the shit hits the fan, basically, and you're in the empty moment, like Viktor Frankl was, you know, at Auschwitz, and things are bad. What are you going to do? What do you see in your own heart? And do you like it? Do you like what's really in there? Are you a coward? Are you a freedom fighter? What are you? And And you can bet in those empty moments, I've already done that. They put me in super maximum security solitary confinement because they wanted to cover up. They planted me with evidence and cover up the bombing of the Murrah building. And I sat day after day, week after week, in solitary confinement in those empty moments that I'm talking about. And I cried. I shit my pants. I did all kinds of things, but I was in those empty moments. And I hope none of you ever have to go through that. But it gave me a lot of time to think. And I made up my mind that if I ever made it out of there alive and I ever got back to freedom, that I would never, ever, ever allow myself to be captured again. And so death, to me, at my age, is preferable to being in those prisons. So there are the empty moments. I hope none of you have to find that out. But we may be faced with that if we don't do something soon, because they will come at you with their guns like they did the people at Waco. They will come at you like Randy Weaver in Idaho. They will blow up the building you're in like in Oklahoma City. They will destroy the Twin Towers like those people that were there. They will blow up Pearl Harbor like my dad saw over there. So the guns are there and they're real. Question is, how are you going to face them? And that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that was really compelling, and because when we ended that little recording just a minute ago, I was telling you how moving that was for me, because when you're sitting there all alone, after you turn this recording off and you're thinking about it, do you like what you see inside? This goes to all the operators that are still doing these black hat operations now, all these corrupt judges, prosecutors, cops, everybody. What do you see inside you? Do you like what you see? Do you like what you're doing? Do you like what you stand for? Do you? Do you really think that selling out, that money is everything? To sell your soul out, to throw your fellow man under the bus so you can have whatever you think is the nicer this or more expensive that? Do you really believe that is going to save you when you actually die? No dead men can take money with them. You can't take your fancy cars and houses with you when you die. So what do you see inside of you? What kind of person are you going to be? What kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Y'all think about exactly what he said, what Cody said. Think about it. With that, snafu out. Okay, people. All right, that was the show that we recorded this morning. I'm gonna get up in the morning and I'm gonna do another show where I'm gonna do another recording with him. I'm not sure what topic we're gonna go into. We got so many different topics we could talk about. It's just retarded. But I just really want to thank you guys that come on, and there was 121 live streamers at one point, even on a Saturday night. So that's pretty good, y'all. I mean, you just need to start pushing this out there to your friends. These videos, all these videos that I've already done with Cody are all over 1,000 views. So one of them's over 2,000 or 3,000 views. I'd have to look it up, and I don't want to bore you with statistics. Y'all can go on the site and just look at the last 10 or 15 videos that I've done. When you get down to the one that said the 2,200 Marines stormed the CIA, you know, that's over 180,000 views now. It's 12 days old. I cut that on the 20th of November. This is December 2nd. 180,000 views. Y'all need to go hit that video and push it out there because it talks about Keanu Reeves and what Keanu Reeves has seen. That, I just read the article. But once you hear this, you're going to get a better understanding of the satanic, evil people that are the super elite rich. Now, we're working on a couple of interviews to get a couple other people on, maybe as a three-way. I'm not going to go into any details about it because, I'm just not. But there could be some bigger shows come up with some pretty outstanding guests. And I want y'all to know that y'all need to get this out so more people will start tuning in and turning on. Because the only way we're going to beat this is with empowering the people with knowledge. Y'all have the power to do it. It only takes, I'm only one person. Cody's only one person. Just look at what two people are doing to get this out to y'all. My channel's not monetized, just for your information. None of my videos are monetized. When Google or Yahoo, fucking YouTube demonetized everybody over a year ago, I said to hell with it. I'm just going to put all the videos out there. I'm not going to make any money. I don't give a shit. I want to put the information out there and see how many people are paying attention. A lot of the videos I've done, they have shit for a view count. It's amazing. I thought, well, hell, they're just censoring the living shit out of this channel. So y'all go back. You can look at Operation Mockingbird, Operation Skyfall, and Project Slammer. I forgot what the third eye chakra is right now. I really am tired. I mean, like yesterday, I spent 6 hours in front of the computer doing these videos, doing the interviews with him, and then upload them. Literally, I have to give the headset an hour or two to charge up before I can start doing the next video or recording or anything. It's like right now, as soon as I kill this, I got to put this damn thing back on the charger so in the morning it'll be ready. Because we're going to hit it hard. We're going to be doing this practically every fucking morning till we get enough content out there that this blows the fuck up. And y'all, every one of you has the ability to make this shit happen. Everybody that's listening. We got people in the UK. We got people overseas and other places. We got people in Spain that are going to start tuning in to some of this stuff. Of course, they don't speak English that well, but for the English-speaking people, they're going to start tuning in because he's got contacts over there. So it's going to be up to y'all to start getting this out wherever you can and just put it out there. The hell with them censoring it, because if enough people do it, they can't censor us all. They can try. I mean, the only thing they can do is pull a major false flag and do a grid down scenario. If they do that, you better have your shit wired tight. You better have you some food, better have you some water, and you better have you some bullets, because it ain't going to be pretty. So I just want you to know, you guys out there, y'all have the power to make this happen. Every single one of you. So I want to let you know that I appreciate all y'all on the live stream tonight. Y'all are doing a great job. All right? Keep it up. In fact, you're doing an outstanding job. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now. So good night. God bless. Snafu out.